Hello everybody, welcome back to another video, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be another video centered on the western part of the United States. I have gotten a lot of feedback from my last video about California that everybody liked it. They liked that I include the west. So today will be another video on the storminess that will be going on in the west. Fairly good amounts of snow for the ski resorts, so let's just jump into this. But before we get any further into this, if you'd like to support this channel, consider subscribing. I am so grateful for what you have guys been doing lately to my channel. It's been exploding, so thank you guys so much. I'm really grateful. Thank you for that. So right now, let's go back to Pivotal Weather. This is a website that I also use, pivotalweather.com. I'll put a link to it in the description box below. It's a great website. It works awesome. And the reason I'm using it today because Tropical Tidbits is getting some server maintenance. So some of the models are a little bit goofy and messed up. So I will be using Pivotal Weather. But some of the models on Tropical Tidbits still work perfectly fine. And that's just a temporary thing, so don't think Tropical Tidbits is getting, destroyed or anything. It's a great website. I'll also leave a link to it in the description box below. So, first off, there's going to be 3 to 4 major storms that are going to be impacting California, Oregon, and Washington, and states in the west for about the next 10 to 15 days. And these storms are going to be fairly big, and they're going to bring much-needed relief to the west because, obviously, the headlines of the news have been the insane wildfires that have been going on. So we really need to address that. We go through time, we are seeing quite a fairly calm pattern throughout the United States, and then we start seeing a little bit of moisture popping up in the west, and that is indicative of the jet stream pattern, the ridging in the west, the troughing in the east, which basically means that the jet stream goes, let me draw this out quickly, that the jet stream goes like this and all the way up into Canada and then kind of goes back down like this. This is what we have been seeing. And with this, all the stormers have been trying to get past this jet stream but deflected along with the jet stream up far into British Columbia, and they came back down sending through here, or they just went off into Canada, off into the ocean, missing the west. That was the main point. But now we're seeing this west, I meant to say that moisture approaching. This is not the first storm. This is just ahead of the storm. But we are seeing that the moisture is starting to break through that jet stream regime, and that is going to allow for those storms to get through. So the first storm occurs around Wednesday into Thursday. We see quite a big swath of rain going into northern California, as far south as central to southern California. Obviously, in the Sierra Nevadas, that is going to be snow, and that is very good news because for those that live in the east or whoever doesn't really know much about the west, the western part, or at least California, gets their, and many states in the west get their water throughout the year from the snowpack that falls in the mountains throughout the winter. So this is very important. It's very crucial. So I would actually prefer them to get rain and snow here in California, Nevada, and Washington, Oregon than us states here in the Midwest, because think about it, we have the lakes here. The lakes, in order for them to dry out, this would take hundreds of years with no rain. The lakes are massive, and we have a freshwater reservoir right there. They don't. They have a saltwater ocean, which would take much money to convert into freshwater. They need the snowpack. Obviously, the rain that does fall, they do take up, but that's not going to last throughout the whole year, so the snowpack is so vital for them. And that's the first storm you can see pushes on into the country. Idaho, Utah, ski resorts will be rejoicing with this. We get another storm. This is the second storm, or the second wave of the storm, but I'll qualify it as a separate storm. It goes out into the northwest. It's more centered on the northwestern part, not necessarily California, and that is throughout the Thursday into Friday time frame, and that does spread into northern California as time goes by. We get a little break for a couple of days, but you can see that snow passes down into Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, Montana. So these states, again, a lot of people do need the snow, not only for the reservoir of water later on in the year, but also for business and the ski resorts. So it's very important for them to see snow. And the East Coast has ski resorts as well, but they have been seeing already way above average snow, and the ski resorts have been opening very early. We go through time, and this is the third storm that comes through. Again, mostly centered on the northwest, but eventually it does try spreading down into the south. That one was a little bit weaker, and we get a very long break, about a week, and then maybe not a week, but half a week, and we get another storm that could be passing through, and yet another one, which we don't even know if that's going to happen because it's so far out. But these models have been hinting at these storms for a very long time, passing into the going into the west, and they have been fairly accurate. So just because, again, they're this far out doesn't mean that they're completely not accurate. They could be getting onto something. And if this is definitely shown, this above average precip on the 6 to 10 day outlook. So in terms of temperatures, warm across the west, but not terribly warm, cooler than it has been. And the cooler conditions are going to be stuck around the Four Corners area and in the very upper isolated areas of northeast. And in terms of precip probability, yes, the whole country looks fairly wet, fairly moist, but at this point I would have the most confidence in the west in terms of above average. I don't know about this right here. This could happen, but this above average area right here, but I would definitely say that mostly the west will be above average for sure. And again, their above average precipitation, their water is very important for them, as they, obviously we all need water, but again, many states here are connected to the Great Lakes Reservoir, which are huge, and they don't necessarily need it as much as here's areas in the west. So we go to now, I would like to show you the 8 to 14 day outlook, and this is extending from November 25th through December 1st. So yes, we're getting close to December already, and the temperatures moderate. This is another thing I was talking about in my yesterday's video, where we don't really know what's going to happen after the 6 to 10 day time frame. The temperatures could take a crash, there could be a huge dip in the jet stream, or there could be just moderating conditions in terms of something like this, just neutral, a little bit warmer, a little bit cooler in some spots, nothing major. We'll need to see what happens, because at this point it's a little bit too early to make predictions, but there are some signs that we may be looking at a cooler pattern. But let's get back to the west. So the west, we're looking at still fairly warm for the 8 to 14 day outlook, especially parts of the northwest, the coastal areas. And in terms of precip, still above average, except it's less confidence because it's farther out, not necessarily because there's going to be less water or less storminess. And then they have fairly good confidence across the east, which we'll have to watch and see what happens with that. So another thing I'd like to show you is the NAM 12KM model. The NAM 12KM is a higher resolution. This what I am right now is the near surface reflectivity, which shows you what this model thinks the radar will look like at a given time. We're now at Sunday, November 18th, 2018, which is today as I'm recording this video. We go through in time, and we see that still fairly calm across the west, nothing much. There's a high pressure in place. There's maybe some snow showers. Nothing major across either coast of the United States, the east or the west, maybe a little bit more active in the east. And a potential for a little snow system. I may need to make a video on that. As you see, there's a potential for a snow system in the east, which we may need to watch. But going back to the west, still fairly, again, the first storm is only going to come in Wednesday through Thursday, so this model barely reaches it out, only goes out to 84 hours, but does have that, you can see, getting into even mainly parts of Northern California, Oregon, and Washington. Southern California, maybe not so much, but I wouldn't say that you're out of the question for seeing some rain. This could definitely be impacting your areas. You can see there's just a whole river of moisture trying to pummel into here, but it's getting sended back down into the south. Let's look at the Canadian model quickly. So the Canadian model, if we were to look at this quickly, also has fairly calm pattern across the country up until that Wednesday, Thursday time frame where that first storm comes in, and you can see it has it way further to the south, that precip, and in Southern California maybe getting some rain. Has that second storm up to the north. That second storm looks fairly hefty, looks fairly strong, which could be a little bit concerning, because if too much rain falls at once, that could produce some landslides, could produce some flooding, flash flooding, especially in the west, since that is where the Rocky Mountain ranges are, and very mountainous terrain in many locations. And then that third storm Canadian model has it quite far to the north, but then it has a second or even I meant to say third or even a fourth storm trying to get back into Southern California, which would be fairly interesting to see if that happens. So, in terms of the Canadian model, let's look at the total accumulated precip. Yes, fairly hefty amounts, especially for the Northwest. Oregon, coastal Washington, coastal Oregon, Northern California would be seeing 2 to 5 inches of rain, if not more. And Southern California, obviously a little bit less, but I would still say that up to an inch is possible in some locations. And this is just one model. We'll need to see what the other models are saying. In terms of the GFS, we go through time and click on total accumulated QPF, which is precipitation. And let's just go here in time. This is, again, a different website, so the colors are going to be different. You can see fairly large amounts of rain coming into California. Let's just go through this in time all the way to the end. And as you can see, we have some fairly good amounts. And again, these colors look fairly ridiculous and aggressive, but this is a little bit of a different scale reading. So those yellowish, almost brownish colors are around 6, 8, 10 inches. But the GFS doesn't have as much in Southern California, more on the more on the western coast of California, if at all in the southern part of the California. So, but again, still fairly consistent on the Washington, Oregon, and Northern California, seeing quite a bit of rain. So that is good news. That is great news for the ski resorts. Great news for everyone. Great news for everyone in the West. In terms of the ski resorts, let's go to total accumulated snowfall. So let's go to winter weather. Click on total snowfall. And let's just zoom through this in time. We see the east being fairly active at the beginning. Then we start seeing those storms passing in through the west. And as you could see, the mountains are going to be getting quite some hefty amounts, potentially up to 30 inches in those isolated areas. So very, very, very good news for the west. I'm happy that they're seeing quite a bit of rain and snow. So that wraps it up for today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed. There is actually quite a bit to enjoy about this. I mean, there's good news for you guys here in the West, so that should be fairly good news. I really love you guys. Thanks for supporting my channel, and I'll catch you all guys in the next episode. See ya. Bye.